We're deep into it. Look, 3 pages. We're on the third page.
I got to talk to you after class.
Okay. We're meeting tonight, yeah? Okay. Doesn't look like good news, but okay. Good. Okay. Welcome, everybody. How are you? I hope everybody's been at least a few times this week trying our long short way, which is the meditative path, the meditative technique. Yes? Did I hear? No.
She said very nice.
Very nice. Yes. So any sort of ideas, feedback, experiences? Anything?
Well, I told you I could try it,
Yeah.
but my mind still wanders as I try.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time,
Yeah, yeah.
getting into it. So I've tried it 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. So it's we learn from neuroplasticity that every time I sit and focus on a divine concept, say my mind wanders, I bring it back. I'm strengthening the connection with that divine
I haven't
concept.
noticed it strengthening yet. I still want it just as much as it did when it started.
Okay. Well, yeah. You're going to give it time. Absolutely. Thank you.
What I found helpful was when my mind wanders is to just note that thought and park it. Note it, file it away, and then get back. So don't even try and let it take over.
Yeah, yeah. So Eastern meditation sometimes says just follow the thought, watch the thought, become one with the thought. We just replace the thought, right? So because we're not meditating, as I said, on the side of chokhmah, on the side of clearing the mind completely in order to elevate the consciousness to a spiritual level, let's call it, we're meditating on the side of bina where we fill the mind with the divine concept. So it's very easy when I have a thought that, quote unquote, intrudes, to just notice it and then replace it with the thought that I'm thinking of, right? The godly concept, whatever it may be. It's much easier to replace a thought with something, especially a positive content thought, than it is to struggle with the thought or watch the thought or become one with the thought. So it takes a lot less time and application to do it. So every time that happens, many of us are just starting this. We shouldn't be surprised if my focus on the content on which I'm meditating is not as strong as it may become. But just keep doing it and know every time that I return my focus to that thought, to the content, I'm strengthening my dat. It's a gradual process, so I may not notice, after a week or two that suddenly my mind doesn't wander at all. But know and rest assured, every time I return my focus to it, I'm strengthening my dat, and I'm also creating a new connection between that divine concept and my emotions. So that's the work we do, and it's gradual over time, but it absolutely has an effect each time.
I love it. It puts me right to sleep.
Okay, that's another beautiful thing. You can use it.
I go right to sleep.
Sometimes in the middle of a.
I didn't think about doing
Oh,
it
I
at that
love it. It just
So what's that?
fabulous.
I didn't think about doing it at that
Yeah.
time of day, of bedtime.
3 or 4 times, and I'm
funny you should bring
just
that
out
up.
like a
Yeah.
light.
It's funny you should bring that up, because last night I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't fall back to sleep. So I tried the breathing, and it did help. And fall
Yes.
back to sleep.
Oh,
Yeah, certainly. So we're talking about, if you didn't hear, we're talking about that it relaxes one for sleep, and that's nice. And certainly there is. No, that's good. That's good. And there is a meditative practice before going to bed,
Okay.
which is connected with the bedtime Shema. So we don't in Judaism just go to sleep and I'm tired and here's sleep. We really prepare ourselves meditatively as well, because sleep is a whole other journey where the soul returns closer to its source, dislocates a little bit from the physical, and receives vitality, energy, works through things, etc. So very nice. But the focus we're using here primarily is in the morning, so that it affects the day. But both are absolutely valid and wonderful. Yeah.
I found that I really can't stop my thoughts, but I can direct where my focus is.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not so interested in stopping thought. And Hasidus and Kabbalah does not recommend it, and the Jewish soul pathway does not seem to benefit from stopping thought. We actually fill the mind with a particular intellectual idea and the thought that flows out of it, allow the details to expand and expand till they fill the mind. And I know I said that you're not doing it to elevate yourself, but in fact the Mittler Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe's son, talks about how by meditating on the side of Bina, where there is active thought, as we go deeper and deeper into that thought through Bina, not through Chokhmah, when you get to the depth of that Bina, you actually encounter not just Chokhmah, which is that Eastern meditation style, there's no ego, the world is just oneness, I'm out of the illusion kind of thing. But instead, you encounter the source of Chokhmah, which is above Chokhmah, which is actually in Keter. But that's outside the scope of this class. That's a complex meditative text called Shar Yichud from the Mittler Rebbe. So you definitely can have highly spiritual experiences, and even above the state of egolessness that they describe in Eastern meditation. But we do it always with intellect, the cogitative intellect, the conscious intellect, and thought being active and filling the mind. That's our pathway. It's a different form of meditation, different direction entirely. And I'd want to make one gloss based on your question about aren't we meditating to improve ourselves? Because the answer is really always yes and no. Right? So we're not looking to elevate our consciousness so that we have no ego and we walk around outside the illusion of reality all the time. That's not the aim. We're not trying to become enlightened beings. In fact, we're focusing on almost the opposite aspect of ourselves, on our lowest aspects. And that's because when we talk about what meditation is about, we said it's about providing souls to our mitzvahs and our Torah study, and thereby elevating not ourselves, but the world around us. Right? So if we all ate breakfast, and we might have gobbled it down just because we were hungry, it tasted good, and then rushed out, in that case, that physical food remained in the physical domain. Kabbalah says, if I got up and I meditated and I said the Shema and I brought my best self forward, now when I encounter that food, I recognize it's a spark of godliness. I create a channel through my blessing of the food. I eat it with consciousness that I'm going to use that energy to do good things. And now that food, the spark in that food can actually elevate, but it needs wings to elevate, and that's the love and the awe that I generated when I meditated and when I prayed. So if I actually eat that egg sandwich or whatever with a sense of love and awe that this is my share of reality, that I am here as a soul to elevate back to its source, that provides it the wings to elevate. And the same with every other mitzvah, the same with the Torah study we're doing right now, the same with most things you do here at Temple Israel, right? Even the social things, right? Loving another person is a mitzvah. We can make that part of this, and we can elevate everything about it. Tzedakah that we do here, we can elevate that, right? Prayer that we do, we can elevate that. Learning, we can elevate that. So that's the main focus, is that we're providing souls for mitzvahs in the form of my kavanah, which is my love and my fear or awe that I've generated during meditation. But here's the thing about, am I elevating myself? Okay, I'm not interested in having an enlightened life where I'm consciously above reality. I'm in reality trying to find those aspects that I need to provide wings to elevate around me. But part of the world that I am meant to elevate, and this is the answer to your question, is my own animal soul. Right? So a big chunk that I'm here to elevate is not just the bread and the branches that I use for my sukkah and the money that I get for tzedakah. I also have an animal soul that, if you remember, is flowing through the klipas noga. So there's this whole packet of life energy, of cosmic energy running through the klipa that I'm encountering. My divine soul is the only being that can elevate that animal soul. So that's actually what we're doing. When I take a self-centered emotion that's deeply ensconced in my personality, and through meditation, I create awe, as in fear that I shouldn't perhaps yell at people, I shouldn't perhaps lie, I shouldn't perhaps think about myself before I think about those around me. And using that awe, I change that animal soul energy. And using my love, I say, well, I love being Jewish. I love that sense of oneness. I love the people around me. I love my family. Let me use the energy of my animal soul to serve them. And by meditation and by prayer, I create new emotions. And that takes the energy of the animal soul and transforms it so that it serves the divine soul. Now I've actually elevated that animal soul the same way I elevated that challah or that lulav branch. Right? I can actually do the same process with myself. And that's the key of what we're here for. We call it avoda, we call it avodah, work. And that's a big part of meditation too. So yes, I'm meditating to provide souls to elevate the mitzvahs that I'm doing, but my animal soul is included in that. So I am elevating myself. But at the end of the day, what it looks like is I'm just making myself a mensch, right? I mean, I'm not having spiritual experiences. I'm taking my immature self-centered drives and I'm working with them and I'm changing them through meditation so that they become mature other-centered drives. And now I've elevated my own animal soul and allowed it to return to its source. So yes, we're meditating to improve ourselves, but basically to give ourselves what you might call good character traits, that I love and I have respect for mature things, and I don't love and have respect for immature things. So that's why meditation is so different, is that I'm not interested in have I had a spiritual experience and encountered the root of Bina, which is the source of Chokhmah and all this. I'm more interested, okay, when I got up and went out into the world and someone honked at me, how did I respond? Did I respond with my divine soul, or did I respond with my animal soul? And I'm focused on the lowest aspects of myself and working them and improving them, rather than trying to elevate myself above that. Is that kind of clear? Yeah, so that's that.
That's what I find that I'm getting from this class.
Oh, good.
If I were to write it down and tell you, it's basically relating to the world in a little different way and seeing things differently. And when I don't relate in a more positive, I'm aware of it.
Good. So exactly. So the comment was that's what some of us are getting out of this class, that it is not so much the Eastern style, but rather just I'm relating to the world in a different way. And when I relate to the world in a self-centered way, at least I notice it. Right? So that's how we measure meditative growth and spiritual progress in Kabbalah. Right? Yeah, and it's nice to get feedback. It's really satisfying, deeply satisfying to say, oh, 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have responded this way in this situation. Now look, I have different emotions. And I've inspired these emotions, and I can come back to these emotions anytime because I know what I meditated on to generate them. That pathway has been strengthened, and I can come back anytime. Every morning I can regenerate them. In the middle of the day, if I'm triggered, I can regenerate them. They're mine. And it strengthens a whole life, and you elevate those aspects of yourself a whole life. So let's continue. We're in chapter 16. So where were we? The reason? No, we did the note.
Yeah.
Runs intellect. That's the first thing we gotta do.
Where do we-
Even if one's intellect? I'm not
This
seeing
means
that.
at the heart?
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Are we,
Yeah.
233 or?
233, this means the heart?
No, 232.
We
I think you left
finished it.
early, didn't you? No?
Yes, it's where we are this means.
Oh,
I wrote-
okay.
It's this means.
Right here.
What? I don't see where I don't see where 233 even went.
We were on 230 to the
I
Hayim.
thought we stopped here. but
No.
Somewhere right
No.
We did the whole thing with Ibur, and remember I said, I don't understand, you understand. We definitely did the Ibur note.
Yes, we
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we're on 233. Dahinu shehaleb mevin beruach chochma uvina shebimocho. This means,
This means that the heart comprehends with the spirit of wisdom and understanding in the brain. That is, instead of being excited with the love of God, as it ought to be, the heart merely experiences an understanding of.
right, so to catch us up to where we are, we talked about this sense of meditation, of creating love and awe, and then we said, what if it's not working? 6 months, I don't have big feelings. So here's another important principle. He calls it a principle, a klal gadol, a general principle in how the Beinoni serves God. And that is, okay, in some things maybe you're going to have incredible love, incredible awe, I'm going to rush to do this. But as I said, Pesach cleaning, not so much, right? I don't run to do it. I don't have love for it. Maybe I have a little bit of sense of awe of like if there's a crumb, but I don't know. It's a drag, right? Does that mean that I'm not elevating that mitzvah? Does that mean I failed in my Tanya practice? And he says, no, here's the general principle. There's something called tvuna, which we looked at last week, and that's when we describe when you have an intellectual flow, it's just intellect, but before it becomes an emotion, it becomes a proto-emotion, where the intellect is thinking, how could this be applied? What would this feel like if I did it, right? or the intellect has more of an opinion that this is really what I should be, right? I should like Pesach cleaning. I mean, a Jewish person, they do this, right? We're doing it, my generations did it, like, I should feel something about this. I have an opinion about it. So it's, in a way, it's a left intellect, but it hasn't become a full emotion yet. So 2 points about that we made. One, if you're having full emotions, sometimes you skip the tuna, and it's because I'm just, I like the idea of having emotions. This is fun, they feel good, and I'm just getting myself going. But it's not really flowing out of the intellect. It's just, I'm kind of doing it in the emotional level with no connection to intellect. And there, tuna helps connect the intellect with the emotions and keep it honest, let's say. But B, the important point the Alter Rebbe is making here, the tefuna emotions can elevate mitzvahs the same way the full-fledged emotions can elevate mitzvahs. We can accomplish the same thing. We can have the same deep sense of satisfaction, and our soul can accomplish its purpose through meditation by just using tefuna, which may be for some mitzvahs, like Pesach is for me, the cleaning, or maybe in general, that's the approach. But either way, the tefuna emotions also provide a full soul to elevate mitzvahs in Torah, even as we'll learn up to the world of Bria, which I won't get into just right now. And that's because of what we're talking about. We'll get to why. Okay. So he's saying here that means the heart comprehends with the spirit of wisdom and understanding in the brain. So it's not that my heart is aflame with emotions. It's that my heart gets what my brain is going for, right? So as we said, even though I'm not having full feelings like I would about, the Tigers winning the World Series, is it? Baseball? Yeah, thanks. I know. Oh my God, these Canadians, right? So I'm not having full-fledged emotions, but my heart gets what my bina is getting at. So like I have a feeling I should have the feeling, right? So that feeling I have that much. And that tevuna feeling, that proto-feeling, works also fully to elevate mitzvahs. Gedulat Ein Sof Baruch Hu Dechula Kameh Kla Chashiv Mamash.
The greatness of the blessed infinite God, before whom all else is as naught.
Right, so there's many, many beautiful meditations that we will learn through the Tanya, and we get into the different levels of consciousness within love, higher and higher gradations of it, and techniques, meditative techniques, to access each of those gradations of love and of awe as well. But they're all based on some idea of meditating on the greatness of the Ein Sof, for whom all else is nothing. Right, so if you ever sit and think for 5 or 10 minutes that our tradition says before the world was created, God was alone, one, only, just God. And it's the same thing now. Even though we have this whole creation, it's still just God alone, nothing else exists. I don't know about you, but I get like a little ping inside of, oh, that's an awe-inspiring reality. That my whole life, the whole world, the mountains, the cosmos, none of this doesn't exist. This is just all God alone. Somehow we're having this experience of beingness that's just not there, and I'm filled with a sense of something like subtle awe, dread. There's stuff in there. And you go deeper and deeper into that, and you have different aspects of those concepts and different ways of projecting it, different metaphors for understanding it that our brain can hook onto. But they're all pointing at that we're encountering the Ein Sof, we're teaching our physical brain to have some kind of understanding of godliness, and therefore generating emotions. Asher al ken yata lo yitbarech shetichle elav nefesh kochai lidavek ulehikalel beoro.
For which reason it is fitting and due unto him, blessed be he, that the soul of every living thing should pine for him, to cleave to and become absorbed in his divine life.
And isn't this what every seeker feels at their core of their soul, and why we run to this class and that class and this book and this teacher and that teacher? It's that we know there's more life than being a physical body. We have a spiritual being, and that being knows it's from some source that's even outside of intellect. And deep in my soul, I want to return to that some way. So that's it. I shouldn't be in this world just focused on the physical and forget that. I should, as a soul, want to surge towards that and reunite myself with that, and in some way even lose myself in that. As we said, the divine soul, that's what the divine soul wants, is to rise back up out of the body and be nullified in this, or the light of the Ein Sof.
But we also have to realize we need the round trip ticket.
Yes, so that's the end of the Tanya, is the Rutz of Ashov.
Okay.
Yes. וגם נפשו ברוחו אשר בקרבו, כך יתה להן להיות קלות אליו בחשיכה וחפיצה לצאת מנרתקן הוא הגוף לדווקא בו.
It is likewise fitting for his own soul, the nefesh and ruach within him, to languish for him with a fervent desire to leave their sheath. In other words, the body, which surrounds and conceals the soul like a sheath, in order to cleave to him.
Right, so, and here he's talking more specifically, not about to become absorbed in the divine light, but actually to leave the soul, to leave the body. That the soul in some way feels inhibited in the body, having to think physical thoughts through a physical brain, having to feel emotions that are so always passing through this animal soul, which is so self-centered, having to eat and deal with physical stuff all the time. The soul just wants to leave that. That's if we sit and focus on that reality, I think each of us finds our own way that the soul has this lovesickness and would like to return to its source. רק שבעל כרחן חיות הנה בתוך הגוף וצורות בו כאלמנות חיות.
So intensely his thoughts continue, should his nefesh and ruach long for God that only against their will do they dwell in the body. They are bound to it like deserted wives.
Literally?
Literally living widows who are bound to their husbands and are forbidden to remarry as long as the husbands who left them are alive.
Right, so there's a very depressing halachic kind of dead end. I don't know if you're aware where if in particular if a husband is, say, lost at sea, but you're not sure if he's dead or alive, or captured, or just takes off because he's a bum, and the woman is still married to him, but we're not sure that the husband is dead. Now the woman can't remarry, but she has no partner, and so she's stuck, bound to this person who may be dead, or maybe is a jerk and is gone, and now she can't move on. Right? So it's a depressing halachic reality, which is very touchy. But here the Alter Rebbe is using it to explain what the soul feels like. That the soul is like chained to this body, but the body's not helping the soul in this scenario. The body's getting in the way of the soul, and the soul would like to go back to move on and live its life and grow, and not be chained to this sort of non-existent sort of dead weight, as it were. Relate machshava dilhon tfisa ve'klal. Kim kasher tfisa umitlabeshet b'torah u'mitzvoteha.
In the present state, their thoughts cannot grasp God at all, except when it grasps the best and bests itself in the Torah and His commandments. By studying Torah and observing His commandments, one grasps God's will and His wisdom, which are one with God Himself.
All right, so this is the Tanya's gateway. This is Kabbalah's gateway. Is that I know my soul wants to rise up and reunite with the Ein Sof, and yeah, I can sit and have meditative experiences and seem to rise above the physical, but the soul's not encountering its source. The soul is just being more conscious of its more spiritual aspects. That's not the soul necessarily leaving Nefesh B'Amit. It could be Nefesh B'Amit strengthening itself with its spiritual aspects. But when we focus with Bina on a divine concept like our Su Marom Enechem, or any of the meditations that we learn in the Tanya, now those, as we learned, are actually the organs of the Ein Sof, and there's this strange ability to jump out of the whole spiritual levels thing and actually embrace godliness. That's why we focus on Torah mitzvahs, because that is actually will and wisdom, the chokhmah and ratzon of the Ein Sof and of Atzilus, if you like, and it's actually never separated, right? God's knowledge, knower, and known. And so if I'm fusing my mind with God's knowledge, I may think it's something separate, but that's a mistake. It's actually, God is the knowledge, the knower, and known, and when I'm learning this and focusing on it, I'm now united with godliness, not with spirituality. So by meditating on this, we're not just generating spiritual height, we are unifying with godliness, which is beyond the spiritual. It's just, God is just as hidden in the spiritual as in the physical, as we say. And if I say, well, hold on, I'm just focusing on what you can eat and what you can't eat, I'm focusing on how far you can walk on Shabbat, I'm focusing on all this physical stuff, on how can you say this is God? This is just learning the laws of Jewish tradition. He says, Kim shal ha-mechabek et ha-melech aniskar le'el.
As illustrated previously by the example of one who embraces the king. Although the king is dressed in his robes, this does not detract from the royal embrace similarly. Although the Torah and its commandments are clothed in material matters, yet, since they express God's will and wisdom when one grasps them, it is though he grasped God himself.
It's an incredible reality that we're saying, learning about matzah and how you make it, learning about what trees you can eat from in what year, all this physical stuff, that's actually my mind and my heart unifying with godliness itself. Godliness itself. And you say, well, hold on, you're learning about physical stuff. It's the furthest thing from godliness. To that, the Elder Rebbe says, if you embrace a movie star, some idol that I wanted to meet all the time, and I hugged, Tom Cruise came in and gave me a hug. He was such a great guy. It was amazing. And someone says, well, was it wintertime? Was he wearing gloves and a jacket? So you didn't hug him. You hugged his jacket. Big deal. I can buy the same jacket and hug it, right? You didn't hug Tom Cruise.
Close enough if he's in it.
It's close enough. Like, I don't care if he's wearing his Armani shirt and his Gucci jacket and his winter thing. He hugged me, okay? There were layers, but whatever. We're humans. We know what it means. I got a hug from Tom Cruise, right? Same thing here. God is able to put on many, many, many garments, but it doesn't matter how many. It can be so many garments that I'm just looking at some matzah, right? Or I'm just looking at a dollar that I'm putting in a pushka. But that's an embrace from the Ein Sof. And it doesn't matter how many garments are on it. I can be mature and recognize I'm encountering the Ein Sof here, even though it looks to my physical eyes and my physical senses like it's just physical world. ואל הזאת יעתה להן לחבקו בכל לב ונפש ומאוד.
All the above thoughts pass through his mind and heart and lead him to resolve that. It is therefore fitting and proper for them, for nefesh and ruach, to embrace God with all their heart, soul, and mind.
So if I really recognized all the time that those were the moments of connection with the Ein Sof, that my soul had traveled here, that you can't even experience as a soul in heaven, only here in a body can you actually encounter the Ein Sof, its Chochmah and its Ratzon united. I would rush to do that. I'd realize that that's all my heart and my soul and my might would be about finding those moments. And guess what? Is it easier or harder to be a Beinoni when that's how you feel? Right? So I can be a Beinoni by forcing it and saying, that's it. My outside is going to be 100%, no matter what my animal soul says, no matter how mature my feelings are, I'm going to ignore them, and I'm just going to do the right thing 100%. I'm going to white knuckle Beinoni, right? But here, do some meditation in the morning, recognize what it is that's happening when I love another person like I love myself, right? When I refrain from saying something that is really negative speech, whatever it is, that I'm actually encountering the Ein Sof. Now I'm excited to do it. Now I'm sensed with love and awe, and suddenly, maybe I'm heading towards being a Beinoni that just does it easily with joy instead of white knuckling it.
Where does romantic love come into this?
That's a long conversation. Maybe we can wait till after the class to talk about it, because it's definitely fits in. Yeah, but I think it'll lead to a whole other discussion.
Isn't it kind of metaphor for?
That's one way to look at it.
Okay.
But in short, having children and taking care of a family and loving someone else like you love yourself, those are all mitzvahs. And so in a deep marriage, we know the people care more about each other than about themselves. And it's not that I love this person so much that I feel great. It's that, wow, how can I make them feel happy? Right? How can we build something beautiful? So it's the same thing. Nefesh Elokih can come in, and I can do it with the sense that this is a mitzvah, and I'm encountering God in the form of the other half of my soul and us making oneness. Or I can look at it like, wow, I love this person, I feel so good, me, right? And it's the same toggle switch where a Bainani will be doing it for their partner, and a Rasha will be doing it for themselves. But it's a whole other domain, but it applies 100%. דהיינו, קיום התרי"ג מצוות במעשה ודיבור ובמחשבה שהיא השגת וידיעת התורה כנזכר לעיל.
This means, in a practical sense, to fulfill the 613 commandments in act, speech, and thought, the thought being the comprehension and knowledge of the Torah, as explained above in the previous chapters, that through Torah and the commandments, one grasps God himself, so to speak.
Right, so the notes self-evident there. So that's the long short path to being a Bainani. That if I make this meditative practice part of my, what's that? Okay, good. If I make this long short path part of my practice, then over time I will be masterful in generating mature emotions, and those aspects of Judaism that I want to be better at, I'm just going to be more excited about them, and I'm going to have more respect in terms of not letting myself down. And this is the best tool. This is the prime tool from the Tanya that you can use for a whole life to elevate and elevate and elevate yourself, so that you become more masterful at elevating and giving souls to the mitzvahs around you. At the end of a life, you've taken a whole chunk of the world and reunited with its source, and you've really fulfilled what you were here as a soul to do. This is the best tool for doing it. It does take time. That's why it's the long, short path. So you have to do it consistently, but once you have it, this is here. And trust me, the people around you will notice that, Michael used to go in this direction in this situation. Now he's going in this direction in this situation. Something's changed. Well, I wonder what that is. Right? And they'll recognize that you're just more masterful with your emotions. Right? So you're not walking around always outside of the illusion. We're in the world, but we're in the world more masterfully and taking care of the people around us and elevating everything that we encounter. And there's a deep satisfaction in knowing that we can grow beyond what perhaps circumstances made it seem like I was. הנה כשמעמיק בעניין זה בתעלומות, תבונות, ליבו ומוחו.
Consequently, when the Bainani ponders the subject in the recesses of his hearts and mind's understanding.
So this is what we do. When we really meditate on this, and that shema'amik, that deals with the depth of the meditation, right? So our sur marom enechem, the sheen, I could look at it and I could kind of see the visuals and I could get the idea on a basic sense, and that may create some tevuna emotions. But shema'amik, when I go to the depths of it and I recognize to what extent 24/7 I have this visual connection with the world and this auditory connection with the world, and I think that's real, but my soul has perceptions so far above that. And how can I channel that into my life and let that guide me? And every time I have some experience, I always interpret it in terms of myself, but there's this higher perspective that says, this is divine providence. I'm here to help everyone around me and learn from them. And if I really get to the depths of that and learn to feel that, right, what will happen? Ufi v'libo shavin.
And his mouth and heart are in accord. That is, what his heart feels finds full expression in his speech.
And so not only am I channeling it down from my intellect to my emotions, but I'm channeling even further, quote unquote, down from my emotions to my garments of the divine soul, of speech, emotion and speech, say that. Right? So in this case, I'm not just thinking about and feeling it, it's changing how I speak. Right? So someone in that meeting says to me, that's a dumb idea, and I say to them, oh, how can we improve it? As opposed to, how dare you, and all that, right? So my mouth actually changes, and my faculty of speech actually changes to flow with that other-centered drive, right? When I really drive it down to the lowest aspects of myself, that's where we're aiming. I got some funny looks there. Was that a bad role play there? Yeah?
The paragraph is the one in the middle of page writings, or is it editorial?
Yeah, so for those watching, the question was, thus we see what motivates. That paragraph, is that part of the Tanya, or is that editorial? It is editorial, although it is editorial by an author who, the text was reviewed by the last master of this tradition, the author, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So it's seen as being quite authoritative. So it's above just like some author who wrote a commentary, but it's not the Tanya itself. It's 7 generations later.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
What about the parts that are not in bold print in the body of the Tanya?
Also, all that is this sort of editor's version of the Tanya, right? Which is considered a really important commentary, but it's not the Tanya itself.
So it works together, the act or the doing of these things,
Yeah.
and then the realization that is what connects you.
Yeah.
It works together, and then how does the meditation fit in with that?
The meditation
It's
powers
just-
it to make it easier, so you're excited and you're less
That's
likely
like
to cross your
the
red lines you
layer
establish.
on top of that, or how does it fit?
And you can see it in a lot of ways. I mean, I see it as the fuel that drives it, right? So perhaps the structure and the mitzvahs, that's the engine, and then the meditation, the emotions I create, that's the gas in the engine that lets me really go forward, right? But you can pick your metaphor, but for myself, the emotions make it easier and make it joyful and make it more consistent. And for the mitzvahs themselves, the emotions, those are the wings that allow them to elevate. So these emotions, they turn everything into something full of life, and they just expand everything, and they make everything much more powerful in terms of changing the world. See, Joey? שמקיים כן בפיו כפי אשר נגמר בתבונת ליבו ומוחו. And in that, the person fulfills with their mouth, in their speech, the resolve of their minds and hearts' understanding. So I speak the speak, right? How many people think of themselves as being one kind of person, and then I open my mouth and it's quite clear that I'm just another kind of person, right? So I want these emotions to actually guide how I speak. דהיינו להיות בתורת השם חפצו ויהגה בו יומם ולילה בפיו. Go ahead. All right.
Namely, to direct his desire towards God's Torah, meditating on it day and night in oral study.
So whatever I'm learning, that being my way of connecting with the Ein Sof, that my actual desire, right? Everything that I want in the world should be focused on that, right? I want to spend time with my family because that's the main place where I create oneness, and that's a mitzvah to have a family. I want to earn money because it's going to let me give tzedakah and do good things, not because I like the idea of having nice cars, but because I want to do other centered things, right? Everything that I do is focused through that lens of how can my divine soul be the one that runs it to connect with the Ein Sof, right? Through this lens of Torah and mitzvahs. Those are the organs by which we attach in Kabbalah. וכן הידיים ושאר איברים מקיימים המצוות כפי מה שנגמר בתבונת ליבו ומוחו.
And when his hands and other bodily organs, too, carry out the commandments as was resolved in his mind's and heart's understanding.
And now we're going to an even lower aspect of my being. So I don't want it to just be an intellectual idea. I'm learning Kabbalah because it's fun for my brain and it's interesting ideas, and wow, I feel like I'm a smart person now. But now I want to meditate on that to create the emotions. Okay, now I'm succeeding. I'm creating these emotions. Maybe sometimes funa, maybe full blown. Look at me. I'm so spiritual. No. Now let it change how you speak. So it's not about what happens when I meditate. It's about what happens after I meditate when someone comes in and interrupts me, or when something frustrating happens and I need to respond to that. So can I get those emotions to flow and direct how I speak? So it's divine soul speech as a garment. And even lower in my being, to direct how I actually physically act. So I want to integrate I want to integrate everything with that divine spark that can enter my consciousness and let that flow down right through to physical action. And when I've hit physical action, that's when I know I've completed the cycle as a meditator in Judaism.
Physical actions such as giving tzedakah?
Yeah. So, you know, what do I do finally when the rubber hits the road, right? What do I do when I finally have that choice? And am I going to take that 20 and just put it back in my wallet, or am I going to dedicate it to something other-centered because it's part of my 10% that wasn't mine to begin with? It's tzedakah, and I'm doing the slightly painful thing and giving it. Right? If I finally see that I give it, now I know I've created the cycle. I've connected the circuit, and I've connected the chokhmah of the divine soul with my physical action. And that's always our touchstone, is speech and physical action, not lofty experiences when I'm meditating. הרי תבונת זו מתלבשת במעשה דיבור מחשבת התורה ומצוותיה להיות להם בחינת מוחין וחיות וגדפין לפרחה לאלה.
Then when he implements his resolution, this tavuna, the intellectual emotion, which cannot properly be called love or fear, but tavuna, literally, understanding, is clothed in the act, speech, and thought of the Torah and its commandments, providing them with intellectual power, vitality, and wings that enable them to soar on high.
And so here's the wings aspect. This is the providing the mitzvah with the soul aspect. He gets into it in more detail in other chapters and gives us techniques of how to access each of the spiritual worlds depending on what time of the year it is. And holidays, Shabbat, and Rosh Chodesh are special times, and we have heightened access to the higher worlds to elevate mitzvahs to the higher worlds. But for today, I just want to explain the basics of how this works. It's from the Zohar, and in the Zohar it says that mitzvahs and Torah, both, they need love and fear to soar on high. And so as we said, that's the soul of the mitzvah. And Adam, can you pull up on my Four Worlds graphic there? Thanks, Dano. Thanks. So this is a basic model we should be familiar with to understand how, as Jewish meditators, we interact with the physical world around us and our own animal soul in order to elevate those mitzvahs. And this is tikkun olam. We're actually repairing the world, right? Before our soul came down, you saw the whole obstacle course. You said there's all this stuff that's mine to elevate and to repair and to fix and to reunify, but I'm going to forget. And when I wake up in that body, I'm going to have to figure out. I left myself notes, and God left me notes in the form of the Torah. Remind myself, this is what I'm here to do. How much of it can I elevate? Because if not, I got to go back for another life, right? This is what I'm here to do. So this is a model to help us do that. There's actually, we've touched on this. There's 4 categories of spiritual worlds in Judaism. Within each one, there's infinite worlds within them, but 4 general categories to know. The lowest category is asiya. Asiya. That's from lasot, to do. That's the world of action. The very bottom of asiya, the very, very depth of it, the lowest aspect, the most condensed aspect of it, is where we live, time, space, and consciousness. Time, space, and consciousness. So human consciousness is actually part of the lowest level of asiya. It's just part of the physical experience. And so that's where we spend most of our time, here in time, space, and consciousness. There's a spiritual world above that, out of which it's flowing, which is called the spiritual world of action, asiya. There's a parsa, there's a curtain at the top of the world of asiya that really is the godliness of this world. So the 10 sefirot are emanating the world of asiya out of malchut. The whole world's coming out of malchut, and at quote-unquote the top of it, not physical, because it's physical space is only here at the bottom of asiya. The whole spiritual world exists above time, space, and consciousness. But at the top of it is the 10 sefirot, and if I'm working very hard, when I do a mitzvah, I can do it with love and awe, and that will, quote-unquote, give the mitzvah wings. It will soar upwards, not that way, but upwards in terms of being nullified before the Ein Sof. So the more self-nullified something is, the higher that is. until it can unite with the sefirot within the world of Asiya. And as we'll learn later, the sefirot Asiya are flowing out of the world of Yetzirah, out of the world, and eventually you can actually, by keeping on flipping upwards through this whole system of how the worlds are created, you can actually unite with the Ein Sof, even though I'm only uniting with the sefirot in Asiya. But let's not get into that today. Just trust that's something that can happen. Now, if I actually achieve a certain level of emotion, where my emotions are full-fledged and flowing, and now I've provided my mitzvah with more powerful love and awe, it can flip up to the next world, and now it can rise up in the world of Yetzirah. And Yetzirah is a world of sort of angelic emotional beings, right? Or in terms of creation, the Yetzirah is a world of form. Yeah, it's from Yotzer, to form. So here, it's a world without any spiritual substance or spiritual matter. It's only beings with pure form. Like if you looked at just conceptually the blueprint of a building, right? Not even on the paper, just the blueprint itself, the idea of the blueprint, right? There's a building in there, but there's no map. You haven't even written it down on paper. It certainly isn't the materials for the building. It's just the form in and of itself. So somehow, how the cosmos exists just in a state of form, that's the world of Yetzirah. And for us, we experience it more as the source of our emotions, right? The emotional body that we call in New Age spirituality, that's how we connect to the world of Yetzirah. So if I'm very masterful, and if I use the next technique we'll learn, the short-long way, then I can learn to allow my mitzvahs and Torahs to elevate to the world of Yetzirah and unite with the sefirot within Yetzirah. Very powerful. But this path that we're learning, the long, short way, because we're engaging intellect, and as he says, it's just tfuna, right? This whole discussion is talking about just using the tfuna emotions. This is a Beinoni who hasn't even gotten full-fledged emotions going. It's just the little intellectual proto-emotions.
This is all in the Zohar?
Everything he's saying here is not in the Zohar. What's in the Zohar is that love and awe, love and fear, are the wings that allow a Torah learning to soar on high. That's a piece he's drawing from the Zohar, and he's expanding to give us a technique that's practical. Yes? Yes. So if I use my tfuna emotions, so they're intellectually generated, now all those emotions I'm feeling, even though they're a little more subtle, they're always connected to the intellect. They're always sourced in the intellect, and they have the self-nullification that the intellect can achieve embedded in them. Right? Because if you look at intellect, emotions, and physicality, each one has a higher and higher level of possible self-abnegation, of bitul. Right? If I'm thinking of something intellectually, the more intellectually I look at it, almost neutrally, I'm out of the way. And the more I insert myself, now it's less purely intellectual, right? So the intellect is almost inherently has less self in it. Now, when I feel an emotion about something, I love this team, this food, this city, this whatever, there's more of me in that, isn't there? Emotions tend to have more of a self embedded in them. And then, of course, physicality, I stub my toe and I'm the one that yells, that's definitely me. There's a me there. Right? So each one of these worlds, the world of the physical, Asiya, the world of the emotional information, Yetzirah, and the world of Bria, which is the world of intellect, and the world of just creation, where beings have the potential to be a something, but without any form yet whatsoever. So it's a very, very abstract spiritual world, Bria. When I elevate my Torah mitzvahs with the tfuna emotions that are connected to the intellect, now they have the potential to ascend not just to the sefirot in Asiya, not just to the sefirot in Yetzirah, the world of emotion, but actually to the sefirot in the world of Bria, the world of intellect, which is basically pretty much the beginning of conscious cosmos, right? I mean, as a normal soul, that's usually as high as one can elevate anything. So although this seems like it's a slower technique that takes more application, because everything we do is now connected to my intellect, which has less automatic self-centered drive, those proto-motions can actually allow the mitzvahs and the Torah to elevate to Bria. Not easily, not on a normal day, but as we'll learn, there's special times when there's special opportunities to take kind of the whole week or the last few weeks and elevate the whole thing right up to Bria, even though that's not my normal station. We'll learn those techniques. They have to do with the calendar, with holidays, and with how we understand and frame and flow with those holidays, in particular Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh, because they come around regularly. Any question about this? Maybe I didn't go through as systematically as I might have, but I wanted to give you just a picture of this. There's 4 worlds. We're elevating the mitzvah and the Torah to the sefirot within each of the worlds, maybe just in Asiya, but also potentially in Yetzirah, and with this long, short way, even within Bria, within the 3rd spiritual world, which is the world of just creation.
When we've attained that 3rd world, what have we accomplished? What is it that we can say? We're a better person of getting there?
I'm not sure I'd use the word. The question is, if we've attained the world of Bria, what can we say about ourselves? That we're a higher consciousness? What have we achieved? Yeah? And I wouldn't say this is about me attaining the world of Bria, because I exist in the world of Bria already. Right? This line, this is from Label's book, by the way, Practical Kabbalah, which I highly recommend. This line is my soul. So I am a physical being here in the world of Asiya. I'm a being of formation and emotion in the world of Yetzirah. I'm a being of intellect in the world of Bria, and I'm just a emanated aspect of godliness in the world of Atzilus. And from God's perspective, I'm still just godliness, right? So I am already all these things. I don't have to do anything to attain it. It is who I am. But just like I'm not aware, perhaps, of my heartbeat at the moment, but if I stopped and put my hand on my pulse, okay, now I'm aware of my heartbeat. There's aspects of myself that I don't think about often, but I know they're clearly at my depth. And certainly I care about my heart more than I care about my fingernail, right? And just like that, in the soul, there's also deeper aspects that I'm not always aware of, but they're very much me. So I don't so much attain them as by focusing on that aspect of myself, I can now say, oh, okay, my heartbeat's healthy, good, I think I'm exercising enough, or maybe not. And by focusing on the intellectual aspect and creating these tuna emotions, I can elevate the world more masterfully around me and elevate my animal soul more masterfully by focusing on that aspect of who I actually am.
So do we get any signals as to what level we're at?
I think the higher up level you're working at, the less you typically worry about what level you're working at. You know what I mean? So the main signal is, I'm not asking that question. You know what I mean? And I relate. I'm like, well, I wonder where I'm at in the scale of things. Like the big tzaddikim, I think they probably spend most of their life not thinking about themselves and their level at all, right? They're just like, how can I serve the world? How can I help these people? Right? Whereas me, I'm like, oh, okay, I wonder where I'm at here, right? That's you know, we want to think more about what's the next mitzvah and how can I improve life for the people around me, and this happens. Okay, we've got. Okay, let's just finish with very quick meditation, 1 minute, a micro meditation. Okay, we've gone through a lot today. Perhaps let's focus on. Let's just focus on the sense that before the world was created, there was only God alone, and that's really the same reality happening now. We see a lot of world, we hear a lot of world, but in fact, the Ein Sof is here just alone, aware of everything. And just take a moment of stillness and bring back our breathing technique. We're going to breathe slowly, letting our belly expand, and breathe out, letting our belly contract. And allow the pause between the in-breath and the out-breath to also expand, so you have 4 even spaces within your breath. Breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Allow it to stay. 2, 3, 4. And now breathing out. 2, 3, 4. And a pause there. 2, 3, 4. And let these 4 aspects of the breath even out for a few cycles. apologize if it was. We're going to open up our wisdom gateway, which is the pause between the in-breath and the out-breath. Perhaps you're visualizing that gateway. Pause between the in-breath and the out-breath. And in that wisdom gateway, I can place any of the meditations from the Tanya. Today we'll invite into that gateway the realization that there's only the Ein Sof, just like before creation. Alone, the only being. Even though this whole world seems to be spinning around us, that's the highest reality. And let that fill your wisdom gateway. However the details appear to you of that idea, let them expand, let them fill your mind. Perhaps see if this gateway is a place that can follow you through the day and just create subtle shifts in the way you speak, the way you act. Let this be a quiet touchstone that you can come back to any time in the day with just a breath. And relax your breathing. Open your eyes. Thanks, everyone. I'm around if you wanted to go into any other questions, any discussions.
I'd like
Yes.
a personal question.
Yes.
How long have you been studying Kabbalah roughly?
5 years.
Can you identify a different Cantor Moash today than you were 5 years ago?
Ask Rick. Ask Rick.
He is 180 degrees out.
Well, there you go. Good. So.